FM, the podcast where we amplify the voices of people building, shaping, and influencing technology across Africa and the emerging market. I'm your host today, Batunde Esunju. And on today's episode, we'll be diving into the topic that is becoming increasingly important: how we build a secure digital identity system in Africa, in the world. Digital identity system sits between the intersection of technology, as you all know. We need trust, we need access, but when it is done right, it can unlock financial services, healthcare, education, legal, and different opportunities for millions. But when it is done wrongly, it can also affect privacy, risk, and a lot of things. Today, I'm joined by someone that I've worked with in the past, a brother from
Brother?
another mother, someone that has been doing great thing in the industry, uh, in person of Benga Tufade. He's actually the technical team lead at Identos. It brings deep experience, and he has been working on digital identity system for a while now, which I believe is one of the best person to discuss, to talk about uh, building a secure digital identity system in the emerging market. Benga, it's good to have you on Tech Nigeria FM today. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you, Babatunde, for having me. I would say it's really a great opportunity to find some time to connect outside of work and just to discuss something that it's really important and major in the market right now. We see a lot of new technologies coming out. We see a lot of um, apps here and there, but all these things, right, they deal with one thing: who you are and how you are able to prove that, right? And but what
Yes.
we don't see a lot of is how do they handle the securities and everything that's underneath. So it's really nice that we have an opportunity to discuss this and be able to actually enlighten people as to what they should be considering when they are building things and what the neglected part of the internet as it is mostly. So yeah, nice to meet you, or nice to have this podcast with you. It's really been a long time coming between you and I. I know we go way back 2015. So yeah,
Yeah, that's
yeah,
correct. It's
yeah.
been long actually. It's been long. Yeah, so let's actually dive into it today because like you mentioned, different apps, you need to know who is actually accessing the system. You need to be able to verify, you need to be able to be sure that this person is who he or she is, right? So for people listening to us today, that they are hearing digital identity, does it actually mean in practical, in the real world terms? What can you basically talk about that? What is digital identity in the real world terms?
Okay. Um. So digital identity, it's very simple. At its simplest, it answers two questions: Who are you, and can you prove it?
Yeah.
That is everything about data identity. In the physical world, we solve all this with documents, a passport, driver's license, birth certificate. Someone looks at your face and looks at the photo and checks a few details and decides to trust you and who you say you are, right? That's digital identity in the real world of interaction. Digital identity is solving the same problem, but in a world where there are no face to face interaction, in a world where you open a bank account online, you access government services through a portal. When a healthcare provider needs to verify you are the right patient, something needs to answer those two questions. Let's remember the questions: who are you and can you prove it, right? But here's where it gets interesting. Digital identity isn't just about authentication, proving who you are. It's increasingly about authorization. What are you allowed to do? And who controls that decision? So in practical terms, a good digital identity system lets a person, one, prove who they are without repeating the process everywhere they go. Two, controls what information about them gets shared and with whom. Three, access services, services such as financial services, healthcare services, government services that they couldn't access or reach otherwise. So, and critically, I would say it should do this while protecting them and not exposing them with their information. That's just digital identity in summary.
Mm, mm. Thank you for that. You've actually simplified it. And I think people listening to us all over the world can actually pick one or two things from the definition in a layman language. So, from your own experience, right? You've been doing building solution.
Yeah,
Can you hear me?
yeah, I
Yeah.
can.
Yeah, okay, thank you. So from your own experience, you've been building solutions towards this digital identity system, and not today. As way back as 2015, you've been doing some applications regarding. I think I remember MBA application
Yeah,
then. That you worked on some things to register people, verify them, and the like. So it's been long that you've actually been in this particular ecosystem. So, what are the critical issues that you see right now that emerging markets are actually facing right now? What are the things that you see that is actually happening right now from
okay.
your own experience?
That's a very interesting approach. So, right now, there's a convergence that is happening that makes this particular moment and era unique, right? The availability of AI, different tools, everybody can build and create applications now. So, the first experience is the mobile penetration. Almost everybody now has a mobile phone, they can get access to
Yes.
things and get access to different services online. In many emerging markets, people actually leapfrog desktop devices, computers entirely. So their first internet experience is a smartphone. Let's say I get a brand new phone today and I am, or let's use the situation. A 17-year-old child will most likely ask you for a phone before he asks, or let's say a 13-year-old child, a teenager will ask you for a phone before they ask for a computer, right? So the first experience is a smartphone. That's a powerful device for identity purpose. Why? It has biometric sensors, it's personal, it's always with you, and the infrastructure for digital identity is literally in people's pockets. That is basically your phone. Only
Mm.
few people actually get to use computers. So that's what makes it kind of very unique at this moment. Everybody has a phone that they can quickly access things online. So the second one is financial inclusion pressure. There are still over 1 billion people globally without access to formal financial services, right? The
Mm.
primary barrier isn't just banks don't want to do business with them, is that these banks can verify who these people are. Traditional know your customer process allows you that or assumes that you have utility bills, you have formal addresses, you have existing documentations that that proves who you are. Many people don't. That's the truth. In sub-Saharan areas, you will see people that don't even have. They don't even know what utility bill is. They are, yeah. So assuming that people would have that so that they can have access to financial services actually locks these people out. Many people don't, like I said. So digital identity can bridge this gap. The third thing I would say about that is government service delivery, right? During the pandemic, right, COVID-19, we saw governments worldwide scrambling to distribute benefits, palliatives, very
Yeah.
high eligibility, and reach citizens. The good part of it is the functional digital identity infrastructure could do this rapidly, right? Without having to struggle with fraud, delay, and execution. They will just verify they already have your information, they verify it, and they are able to send you your benefits or your palliative as needed. But the countries that didn't have it, they faced a lot of fraud, delays, and exclusions. And that was a wake-up call for people, for markets that don't have those digital identity. And the last thing I would say on this is that this is the one that actually gives me headache when I am building applications, when I am building systems. This is the one that keeps me up at night, basically. It's basically the alternative is worse. If we don't build trustworthy and user respecting digital identity systems, somebody else will build the one that will exploit users. People out there will build systems that will exploit users. And the vacuum will be filled. In the dark web today, there are different tools, but beyond the dark web, we have to build systems that actually protect people from, for example, identity theft and the like. So building the identity system right now actually blocks or increases awareness on security and securing people's data. So I think those are the things that I would say is critical in emerging markets right now. The wide scale adoption of mobile phones and the wide scale adoption of technology right now, financial inclusion, government service delivery, and a few other things. So I would say that's what really makes it critical for me.
Thank you so much, Benga, for that. Just to chip one or two things in, my 6-year-old daughter,
Mhm.
she can do a lot of things with my phone now. Uh, Not to talk about my 9-year-old son. They can actually do a whole lot of things with phones right now. Uh, so just to buttress what you mentioned, so we actually need to be very, very careful with identity as of now, because a whole lot of things are actually going on in the world right now. Just to also to add or to ask based on something that you mentioned, you are building identity system, but there are a few things that you actually need to balance, right? Like security, privacy, usability. In your own way, from your own experience, how are you able to balance these three things: the security, the privacy, and the usability of this particular identity system?
Okay. So this is one of the core tensions, and I will be honest here. There's no perfect equilibrium, but then there are principles that help you make better trade-offs, right? Principle one that I would say is you always have to have privacy by design, not privacy by addition. What I mean by that is if you build a system and then try to add privacy controls later, you are retrofitting it basically, right? The architecture will fight you.
Hmm.
Privacy needs to be foundational requirement from day one. Ask what's the minimum information needed for this transaction, not what information could we collect.
Okay.
Principle two for me that I would say is security through limitations, not just protection. What I mean by that is yes, you need encryption, you need access control, you need secure protocols. But equally important is limiting what you store and how long you store it for. Data you have don't have to be breached. Scopes taken narrowly. Don't give broad access when narrow access is all you need. Right? Don't give a
Yeah.
user, for example, don't give a user a read and write access when you just want to read, when you just want them to be able to read something.
Yeah,
So
that's
you
true.
need to put all those things into perspective. And time limit access. Don't grant permissions beyond temporal where temporary one will suffice. Imagine granting an access token for a digital end system for 5 years, whereas the user is probably going to read something and the user is done in 5 minutes. Those are the kind of things that we should control. So, and principle three for me, usability really is not an option. It's a security infrastructure that we need to bring in. This surprises people in the sense that if your secure system is too hard to use, people will find other ways, people will find other solutions, people will find workaround.
Yeah,
They will share
that's true.
credentials manually, they will skip steps, they will use insecure alternatives. People will find way around. The most secure system that nobody uses correctly is less secure than a slightly less secure system. So we have to put it in our mind that when we are building this system, we are building it for users. We need to understand how users churn easily when something becomes too hard for them to use. For example, you are building a SaaS application, and before the user gets to actually the value of your services, they've gone through over 10 screens. Your users will
Yeah,
start
step
to
one, step two, step three, step
yeah,
four, step five.
so they will actually start to churn. So when your system is too difficult to use, people will find alternative. Is a difficult to use system is as equivalent as a non-secure system because people will find alternatives. So that means they are falling back to the old ways of doing it, which becomes insecure. So another thing I would like to say is, or the first principle as I will call it is, different contexts need different balances. So let's say
Mm,
accessing your social media account, accessing your medical records are not the same.
that's
There
true.
is more privacy when you're accessing your medical record.
Yeah.
Social media account less private. The security and usability should be balanced, but should be different depending on what you are dealing with. Good systems are context aware. They know, okay, now I'm dealing with health data, which is very sensitive, as against I'm dealing with just some random post that I'm going to put on LinkedIn or on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter, right? Because good system needs to be context aware, they apply appropriate fictions based on sensitivity of what is being assessed. Like I mentioned, more frictions on healthcare, lesser frictions on social media. So the honest answer is you are always making trade-off when you are building. The goal isn't to eliminate these trade-offs, is to make them consciously and transparent in a way that the user's interest is at the center of this identity system. So yeah.
Mm. Yeah, so just to add to that as well, lately, any registration that I want to do online that doesn't have like O2, like Google, uh, Apple, or LinkedIn for me to just sign in, I'm
Mm.
always skeptical. I'm always getting frustrated about it because
Yes.
I don't have luxury of time to be typing my email, my phone number, because I believe with those kind of platform, they've done a whole lot of integration with my data to some extent is
Yeah.
actually secure. So
Yeah.
I always to some point feel comfortable when I'm using those platform rather than me entering my email, my password there and there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's just about that, just to add to that. But the other thing is trust is actually a big issue
Mhm.
in this emerging market. And if users can't trust your system, that's the total end of that solution. If they can't
Yeah.
trust it, or let's just imagine that they trust your system to some extent, but along the line something just happened. Maybe there is an issue with your system and something just happened to it, right? They might basically not trust your system again. So
So
how
for
do you,
example, a data breach.
yeah, like a data breach. So how do you think, because it's actually happening to all these big companies, but they don't actually publicize it. Wow,
Yeah.
you might not know, but in your own opinion, right, how do you think this digital identity system can earn and sustain public trust? What can you say regarding that?
So to earn and sustain public trust, right? I will always say keep the user in the middle of what you are doing. Don't build systems for yourself. Build system for the user. The one thing that I've noticed over time and I've seen over time is that users get to stick with what takes away all their hassles, what takes
Mm,
away all the stress. So building trust in a digital identity system or as a digital identity provider, one of the best ways you can build trust is listen to your users, one. Two,
okay.
build around your users. Two, and let there be transparency in what you are building. For example, so one of the things that I would like to add to that is You just don't wake up Sunday and say, I want to build a digital identity system without knowing some of this foundation. And
Mhm.
for example, we have a lot of documentation on certain protocols that at the end of the day build trust. For example, we have OAuth protocols, we have OpenID protocols, we have UMA 2.0 protocols. These are industry standard protocols that a lot of organizations have come together to say, okay, when building secure systems, these are the certain things that you must implement at the minimum, right? So, if you want to actually build trust in your user and you are here to stay as a digital identity provider, you have to use these protocols and then build your own extra layer of security on it. If based on what you just said previously, if I'm going to a website and they're asking me for username, password, I might be skeptical. But when I see Google, I will my data is already with Google. I can accept to use Google as it is. But Google, you are that website has connected to Google through one of the protocols, which is
Yeah.
OAuth protocol and OpenID protocol. These are the things that build safety. When people see that kind of, as a matter of fact, I prefer to see certain websites that they only allow you to log in with SSO, as against the ones that only force you to give username and passwords. But most importantly, right? If I'm saying put the user in the middle of what you're doing, to earn trust, you need to give people the ability to make decisions. You need to
Yeah.
give people the ability to choose. So when you're building digital identity systems, do you give people the power to control who sees their data, who uses their data, and how their data is being used? Do you give them the power to say, you know what, I have shared my data with, for example, let's say I share my data with a SaaS platform called XYZ today. If tomorrow I want to wake up and say, no, I don't want XYZ to have information and access to my information anymore, can I go somewhere and actually deactivate XYZ information? I could request XYZ to delete my information, and if they refuse for one reason or the other, can I actually go somewhere and actually revoke the permissions or my access that I have given to XYZ? So,
Yeah.
giving people the control to be able to take actions, take decisions. For example, when you want to log in on certain services and you log in with SSO, let's say Google in this case, trust comes from the perspective of you see consent screen. The consent screen tells you what that website is asking for. Maybe your date of birth, your profile information, your email, your address, and the likes. That is somewhere where control starts to come in. When you see that kind of thing, if you are not okay with what is being requested, you can choose to decline that consent, and that service will not have access to your account. These are the kind of things that people and users see and have trust in such digital identity systems.
Thank you so much for explaining it much more better. I really appreciate because with this, people listening to us all over the world will have picked one or two things regarding the digital identity system, how you can actually build trust. It's possible. You can build trust. That's 100% you can actually. So people listening to us, engineers, funders, architects looking watching us or listening to us now, you can actually gain one or two things from this conversation when you are building something or you want to revamp something or you want to modernize something. You can actually build digital identity system into your solution. Thank you, Benga. I see a few more question to just
Yeah,
ask
yeah, sure.
before we call it a wrap. For engineers that are interested in working in digital identity, all right, what skill should they focus on? AI is taking a whole lot of things nowadays, but before AI, and even if you don't have uh, basic knowledge, it's going to still be hard for you to basically use AI. So for engineers interested in working in digital identity, which you've been for a whole lot of years, what skill should they focus on?
So One of the most important skills, which I've also mentioned, is you need to know what the industry standard is around security protocols. For example, do you understand OpenID specs enough? OpenID Connect enough? Do you understand O2 standards enough? Do you understand the concept of authorization server? Do you even understand where your data lives, where most of the time it is referred to as the resource server? Do you understand your own role as the builder of such systems? So those are the kind of things. The first thing, most importantly, is you have to be keen on security protocols. Other things, some of these things are just soft skills, right? Before I even get to the um to the core and technical skills. Soft skill is understanding that users' information is critical. So you treat users' information the way you want your information to be treated. It
Yeah.
starts from the place of work. Soft skill could be, or it could be, you are standing up from your computer. Um, do you actually lock your computer? If you don't, somebody could come do something with your computer and pretend it's you, right? So that basically starts to lead to they could steal your information and everything. So when you are building digital identity system, you need to understand from the perspective of security protocols, those security protocols to safeguard the user's data. Are you building system that is logging personal identifiable information in the logs? Are you building systems that is exposing personal health information in the logs? You need to know how to think of these things in the lines of security. And then most importantly, when it comes to technical skills, I would not really say this is the language you should use. It doesn't really matter as long as you are able to achieve the result. But one thing that you should be able to do is because you are building digital identity systems, some of this system will be serving millions of users. You need to understand the concept of system designs. You need to understand the concept of building distributed systems and fault tolerance systems. You need to have all those in mind when you are designing such. Imagine building a system that is going to serve 5 million users or 10 million users, and you are not properly optimizing your applications, you are not properly making sure that it's fault tolerant. You are not thinking of horizontal and vertical scaling. It's not just about writing code sometimes. From the perspective of engineers, you need to understand what it really takes to build a sufficient and strong system. You need to understand the concept of um, how you will translate these protocols into building your technologies. There's a lot of things under OAuth that has been defined. There's a lot of things under OpenID Connect that has been defined. There's a lot of things um, UMA 2.0 that has been defined. But there are also some other protocols that falls into place and makes all those protocols better. For example, there's the Fire I think it's HLR 7 framework that is an additional layer of security that makes it easier for you to connect and access health data. So all of these tools and technologies, you also just need to know and dive deeper into the security and the industry standard protocols that are out there. Like I mentioned, O2, UMA, OpenID specs, um, fire specs, and the like. So those are a few of what I think the developers should be focused on, or the engineer should be focused on. It shouldn't just be about I'm going to build this system, I'm going to build this landing page, is going to be nice, I'm going to build no. But all these things, when you use all these protocols that I've talked about, that is where we actually are giving the users the control, the context, the what would I call it, and the transparency in this digital
Mhm.
system.
Yeah, so not only just going into digital identity system, you
Yeah,
basically need to understand different protocols that you can actually leverage on when building. Like Benga mentioned, you need to understand like OAuth2 protocol. it's going to save you sometimes when building, and to also give your system ability to be solid. He also mentioned something about scalability. If you're building for millions of users, you need to also build that from the get-go, not after you realize that your system is being used widely, and that is when you want to start
Yeah,
doing some manipulations here and there. It's going to cost you a whole lot.
yeah.
So
Well,
just have that
just
at the back
before,
of your mind.
just before you continue, I just want to add a few things. Like I said, it's skill and it's you have to have the mindset, right? You have to understand the mindset. For example, you should not treat your users as stakeholders in this system. Like I said, they are the center of what you're building. The person whose identity system you are managing is not just a data or a record to be verified. They are stakeholders with interests and concerns and rights. Design as if you are serving them based on what I said. Your system, you should also assume that your system can be abused. So design effectively. But also good identity systems can genuinely improve life, build hope, or even do both. And you have to have a long time mindset of thinking. Another thing when it comes to skill is you have to know that you don't have to reinvent everything. Like I said, some
Yeah.
of the protocols already exist. For example, let's say you want to encrypt certain users' information. You don't need to implement a new cryptographic algorithm or primitive. There are a lot industry standard
Oh,
AES,
yes.
a lot out there that you can use that makes your work management. But you need to understand hashing, concept of hashing. You need to understand encryption. You need to understand data signation. You need to understand public key infrastructure. You need to understand key management. You need to understand, and all these things are all the pieces that comes together to build digital identity system. Do you need to build those things all over again? No. They are already built in pieces and chunks out there. We have thousands of libraries, OAuth, Nimbus, SDKs that you can use to achieve all these things. So there are a lot of things to consider, but just to mention a few of those.
Yeah, thank you so much. A whole lot of things to basically consider, like Benga mentioned. Uh, I think our time is fast spent. I just have a few more for us to go over. Um, let's come back home a little bit, right? We all know where we are from, Nigeria, as a case study. There are a whole lot of things that is going on there now, from people hijacking a lot of, like hijacking your phone, doing a lot of things from there. How do you think users can basically secure uh, like their devices, not to allow their data out there? Because when they snatch your phone, right? Even if you lock it, sometimes they find a means to unlock it, and with that, your data is out there. So, how do you think we can actually, from your own experience, right? You've been there before. You've been in Nigeria, but currently you're not there again. But what do you think that people can actually do in terms of security, in terms of securing their devices and the likes?
Okay. So I would say the most important thing is you need to be able to categorize your data. What is sensitive and what is not sensitive. For example, I will give you a very typical example, right? You're building an application and your code lives on your computer 24/7. You never push to GitHub, you never push to any repo to store your code. When your laptop gets lost or stolen, you basically have to start all over again.
Yeah.
If you've been able to categorize that code, that application that you're building as sensitive, you will know anything can happen. Your laptop could crash, but I want to put it in a place that is secure to me and it's easily accessible for me later, even if I change devices. So I will always tell people that sensitive information do not have to live on your phone. there are a lot of secure vaults out there that you can pay for and or even have access to that would keep your information private. I don't expect that um my I would put my password or my information to my bank accounts or everything on a notepad on my phone. I would actually use a password manager that requires a biometric approach that will also even do liveness checks to be able to verify me. So even if my phone gets stolen, right, they might have the password manager on the phone, but if I am not providing my biometric data, nothing they have to do except if they want to wipe the phone, and that means my information is actually gone from there. But
Yeah.
information that are not secured behind this let's say biometric approach or secured in certain places that have good policies about user data storage and encryption policies. Yes, of course, when someone's phone gets snatched or someone's identity is stolen, they will be able to use the person's information or even have access to the person's information. So security is a conscious mindset, not an afterthought. So when anything you are doing daily, you have to think ahead of what if this happens. A
Okay.
lot of things happen in our life that is decided based on what ifs. If you're able to follow the right what if, I'm sure that we would be able to reduce the risk of having our information exposed out there.
Mm. Mm. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I believe to our listeners, you've been able to pick one or two things. What advice you give to startup or government building identity system in the emerging market? What advice can you give to startup? Because there are a lot of startup here and there that are building something related to identity system. What are the advice that you can basically give?
So I would say one, understand the industry standards. Don't go. So I will just understand the industry standard. I already mentioned the three industry standards or to OIDC, UMA, FIRE if you're working with the health, and SMART on FIRE if you're doing extra things on health. Understand the industry standard, understand threat modeling. What do I mean by threat modeling? Is the ability to systematically think through how could this be attacked? Is it essential? Not paranoia, but structured analysis of attack surface, threat actors, and mitigation. It's not just about like I'm always very keen on saying it's not just about building code. It's about understand everything. As a matter of fact, building code is the last thing. Building the application is always
Yeah.
the last thing. You need to understand what you are building for, whom you are building for, and then you can then come back to how to build it. So another thing is I would say you must think like the system thinking. Identity doesn't exist in isolation. It interacts with other authentication system, other authorization system, data stores, which could be resource servers, applications, services, portals, and user context most importantly. So when you are building an identity, you need to know who your actors are. And actors in this case, the user, the authorization server. So what is going to be acting as your authorization server? Where the user's data live, the resource server, you need to understand where that is coming from. Or if you are building a generic system, you need to help the user able to connect their own data stores or their resource servers and the likes. You need to know the service providers or applications that want to connect to your identity system. Google sometimes serves as an identity system, and when you want to integrate with Google in your application for so that the users can use Google login, you will have to go and register with Google. So that is Google's criteria and request of saying, you know what, before you are able to use us, you need to come and register with us. So because we need to do some investigation, we need to do some verification on what you are trying to build. So if you are building such things, you need to know the applications that are going to connect to you as an identity system. So I would say having those things in mind and at the back of your mind will start to inform your decisions of okay, this is what I need to do. This is what services I need to accommodate. This is how I understand threat modeling. And like I said, privacy in engineering. Like there is an emerging distinct discipline, like techniques like data minimization, pseudonymization, selective disclosure, privacy preserving computation. These aren't just nice to have, it is important. You need to be selective with disclosure. You can't disclose somebody's, for example, let me say a typical scenario. If a service provider is trying to get your financial information and the data identity system that sits in between your financial information, that is your bank, and your the service provider. So let's say a financial application is trying to a financial service. Maybe you're doing what, how would I put it? You're doing a thrift contribution with apps. We see a lot of apps like that day, but they need
Yeah,
to get
yeah.
some information from your bank to be able to set your account up. And they only need your savings account information. A digital licensing needs to know well enough to control, not to expose your current account information. That's a
Mm.
selective disclosure. You only disclose, you need to know how to build the systems in a way that it's easy for people to only give access to what they should and
What
retain
is
what they should.
needed?
Yes.
Yeah.
So having all those things in mind as startups or founders or government systems, it keeps building the application in check in the right place. So like I said, privacy first, not after. It's not an
Okay.
afterthought. It's something that you have to do immediately.
Okay, okay. Thank you so much, Benga. Last one from me is about one key takeaway that you want our listeners to remember from this conversation. What I just want one piece of advice, not to engineers alone, to the people out there regarding identity system. Just one key takeaway that our listeners can actually remember from this conversation.
I don't think I have one, but I will try to summarize it in the number of ones into one, all the ones I
Okay,
have,
that's fine.
summarize it. Most importantly, all right, be watchful of systems that do not give you transparency, that do not give you control over your data, that do not give you context of how your data is being used. We have a lot of emerging identity systems right now. For example, at my place of work, I work at Identus. This is one of the things that we're actually building an identity system that puts user in full control. User is able to decide who uses their data. User is able to decide how their data is being used. User is able to revoke their data when they see that something malicious might be happening. Those are the things that we need to be watchful of. So as random users, if you are going to a website and it's asking for all your information and you know that once you grant it, you won't have control over it again, be watchful of those. Always put, and for founders that are building this system and governments that are building this system, you are serving the users, not yourself. So let your users be centric to your application. Your users are the stakeholders, they are not just a subject in your system. So yeah.
Thank you so much. When you're building system, be watchful. When you're accessing system, be watchful. When you're doing a lot of things, just be watchful, right? Because when your data is out there, that's the end. Be careful of what you also put inside. I don't want us to talk more about AI today. I'm going to still bring Benga on the podcast show once more to come and talk about what they're actually doing in Adentos regarding AI, but not today because our time is actually fast spent. One last thing, where can people learn more about your work and connect with you? Should in case we might, like I said, we might have funders that want to go into this. We might have engineers that have questions. Where can people learn more about your work and connect with you, just for us to wrap up this particular session?
Okay, you could reach me via LinkedIn. I'm always open to responding. So my LinkedIn profile, I can it's basically just search for my name, Fafade Oyewole Benga. You would see me there. I would be willing to answer any questions that you have around building secure systems. I don't just build digital identity systems. I build secure systems in fintechs, in in IoT, in a few other places. So, but the most important thing is we are talking about digital identity system today. If you have any questions around that, if you have any questions around some of these protocols that look ambiguous to you, let's say maybe you don't understand how OAuth works. OAuth is in our everyday life, especially for us that use Google accounts or all these
Yes.
Apple accounts and everything. So you can reach me on LinkedIn, search for my name, Tofade Oyewole Gbenga, and just send me a message, follow me, and I will definitely respond to you.
Thank you so much, Benga, for sharing your insight with us today. I think this conversation has been really thoughtful and helpful about building digital system, which are basically secure and trusted. To everyone listening to us, I hope this episode gave you a new perspective, right? Because I think we've touched a whole lot of things here. If you're an engineer, Panda, you will have picked one of the things from this conversation. Don't forget to follow us and subscribe and share Tech Niger with someone uh, who might find it valuable for whatsoever things that they might be building out there. Uh, I'm your host, Babatunde Esenju. Thank you so much for joining us today. Until next time, like I do say, keep building, keep learning, and keep pushing the technology forward. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you. Cheers.
Bye.